All right, cool. So before I start, because this is another thing, like my laptop has been crashing on me sometimes. It's
backing
been,
up.
Yeah, so I've defragmented it a couple times now, and that seems to work. But now I've been just using my phone as a backup just in case.
I'm with you. I've lost some great interviews because
you didn't have a backup?
Work. Yeah, I didn't update the software before I took the phone call, and man,
yeah,
it's fucking depressing.
What's your solution to that? Oh, let me hold on. Just
so is that the start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, right on.
So
that way you can link the video with the audio.
Gotcha.
So I assume that you've done this before. Have you not used video?
I've been on several podcasts, but I don't really understand what's going on.
You're just along for the ride.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So what's been your solution to, I guess, the backing up issue?
Well, just keep your phone updated. Although now Android 9, the Pi update, has disabled call recording.
Ooh.
So now I have to take my interviews on speakerphone, which we'll see how that transcription goes. So, but whereas before I could just say, "Hey, by the way, I'm running a recorder. Is that okay?" And it would record perfectly. But that's not the case anymore.
So literally, you would record the call.
Yeah, which is illegal, I suppose. It's illegal in general. You're supposed to disclose,
Right.
But in Germany, I guess they had passed some law. So
and I'm guessing Russia too.
What's that?
And I'm guessing Russia too. You could just record.
Oh God, I mean, yeah. Who knows what's going on over there? I mean, we all know that our phones are recording us, so
that's true. Actually, like that kind of. This is why I have this right here.
I'm not at the Black Mirror like crazy levels yet, but
that's Daniel.
Yeah, at this point, it's like I've realized that if anybody wanted to know anything about my life, they could just hack something there.
That's true.
Or just go on Facebook. Really, I mean, honestly,
who knows how much data is on there? Yeah. Remember the other day when it was down? Yeah. Facebook.
People freaked.
And Instagram.
Well, remember, so the theory was Facebook was backing up all this data that they had before they had to delete it, like because of like federal charges or whatever.
Like, let's back it up real quick, and then clear it.
It is incredible how much. I mean, how old? I don't know how old you guys are, but how much of our lives we've given away.
I'm 26.
Yeah.
I'm 29.
So practically your whole life, you've probably been on a social network or something like that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, I've had Facebook.
Did you do MySpace?
I didn't personally do it. I think I did MySpace for the band, for our band actually.
You probably lost its songs. MySpace lost a bunch of music.
Yeah.
We had a band MySpace?
I'm pretty sure.
Or maybe
we
not
did.
House of I guess maybe like.
No, it was White Noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, okay.
Got distracted.
Welcome to the podcast. Today we have Ray Roa, a big figure in the scene here, and you've helped us out so many times, man. I feel like you probably get that a lot. I'm assuming, like from local bands and stuff like that. That you're pretty important, at least in my eyes. I don't know if you feel like.
I mean,
that.
I think I don't feel that way. I've probably told you this, like. I feel like I have a job because you guys keep me informed. Like, I believe we did a post because you guys filled out a form that I had.
Yep.
So literally you keep me informed on what's going on, and you're patient with me and with us because obviously at a newspaper, normally short-staffed, and I'm pretty needy when it comes to like, hey, can you get me quotes? Can you get me a picture? Can you get me this? Can you get me that? So, I mean, I'm just lucky to have this job and work in a town that has, a wellspring of people doing creative things musically.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to keep up in a lot of ways. So I feel bad sometimes because you can't get all of it. But like I said, like we try.
I feel like you do though, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
I try to hit a lot. I mean, for a while, Music Week was at like 3,000 words, and then a Music Lead would be like at 1,000. So there's 4,000 words dedicated to music. We've cut Music Week down a little bit just because of a different web approach. But that just doesn't mean that the quality suffers. You just have to be a little bit more careful with curation. It's probably a good thing for me, less like, diarrhea of my thoughts and
Keeps
stuff
you
on
your
paper.
toes.
Yeah, so I'm fine with it. But to answer your question, I mean, I'm just happy to be here and like write about this stuff. I love watching bands pop up. I love watching them go away. Like, you know, that's the ebb and flow of it, you know?
Yeah.
So
that is a weird thing. Like, that's something I didn't necessarily realize because we've been together for a minute now, and you know, I just thought like, I kind of had that fantasy of a band where you kind of start with your friends and then you guys just keep playing until you get, you know, whatever, some sort of success. And then you start realizing that bands break up so often, or whatever it is, you know, whether they break up or they just end up leaving their scene or whatever it might be. But I didn't realize that until I kind of like moved here and got a little older, you know what I'm saying?
Where'd you live before here?
So you're good at this.
It's my podcast now.
We're originally from Miami.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is super rich scene.
Well,
when did you leave?
It's turned into that, I think.
Okay, it wasn't like that before.
We left in 2010.
Okay, yeah, so you've missed a whole cycle of like bands and shit like that. Iggy Pop figuring out that there's like great bands down there.
It's crazy now. Like we've said this so many times on this, but it's weird that we left because we played there a lot. Actually, we played there for the first, I guess, 3 years. When we had the first inception of the band, we were playing there.
This is when it was called White Noise, or
White Noise. And then we actually were still down there, I believe. No, we weren't. We moved up here when we changed names, but yeah. We were playing down there for a minute, and there wasn't a crazy scene. It was weird. Like when we moved away is when the scene kind of like, I guess, popped up. And like a lot of these bands are like our age or a little bit younger, and it's like, where were these people before? Were they just not performing, you know?
I think it goes in phases. Like right now we're in a really good time for young bands like that are your age. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel bad, like maybe sometimes we neglect some of the older bands, like you know, we talk about like the Hideaway Cafe scene, or, you know, I really want to do a jazz issue for the music issue this year. Like there are some scenes that get neglected, especially when the person who's writing's taste is a certain way. But right now, I mean, dude, there's so many great bands that are your age and your generation booking shows, the venues, you know, New World closed, which I lament, but there's places to play, right? That's what I'm assuming. I mean, you can play at the Bins, you can play at Cage Brewing now, at so many places. House shows, like... Yep.
Well, the house shows, I mean, I don't even know about those here, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many on different levels. Like, there's the punk shows, there's a friend of mine, Bob, at M&F. He hosts shows at his house. The Listening Room Festival is happening right now that Fran Snyder does, so... It's a great... I love Tampa Bay, man.
It's vibing, huh?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it's great.
I mean, we moved here and it was like way better than Miami. So we got here and we were like, oh my God, we're playing everywhere. You know?
Where was your first show here?
Damn.
Pegasus Lounge, I think.
Which location?
The first one.
So the one across from Busch Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we played a lot at Market on 7th before that stopped having shows.
That was Freddie,
there.
right? Freddie was booking those, yeah.
Yeah. He's actually coming on tomorrow too.
Cool. Freddie's awesome, man.
Dude, I love Freddie, dude. Yeah. He's my man. He's such a good guy.
He's like a heart and soul type of person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's just a good dude, man. Yeah. The Market on 7th. I think actually like early on we played at State Theater, surprisingly enough.
They used to do a ton of shows, man.
Yeah. That was weird.
It was like an open, not an open mic, but like it was something. It was during the week. It was like who was it?
We got so we played a show at Churchill's in Miami with a band that was from here.
Okay.
And they saw us down there and they were like, "Where are you guys from?" You know, they assumed that we were locals to Miami, and we're like, no, we live in Tampa. And they're like, oh shit, we have this show up at State Theater. Would you guys like to open it? And so we did. And that's
it'd be interesting if State Theater kind of continues that in its next phase. You know, I'm excited to see it open and see what gets booked there.
Yeah, because what happened?
It's like going under renovation right now. They had some capacity issues, and they could change hands, and so we'll see what the renovation looks like, and we'll see what some of the shows that get booked get booked there. So
yeah, because that was I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, because I would say like Ritz here, State Theater over there, that just makes sense, making it bigger and just bigger.
I don't think it's going to be bigger. I think it will be a similar capacity. Like I don't quote me on this, but I think it'll be under 1,000 for sure. I think in like the 700 range, maybe. I don't know.
Huh. So I guess they would be renovating the way it looks, I'm assuming?
I think it had some issues inside that needed... I don't know if you remember the green room in there. It was pretty gnarly.
No, the one in the back? Like
yeah.
All,
yeah, I mean...
yeah.
A great room. Like, I love that room, but it could probably, stand to take a few improvements.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. That'll be a great story and a great thing to watch.
It's not a bad thing, right? Because it's like if they have the money to do that, that's a good thing.
If somebody's willing to invest, and I think that's one thing we don't do well, or at least maybe I don't do well, like writing about stuff when it opens, is setting the expectations. Like, I don't remember writing about Foo Bar opening, or I remember writing about like Turbo Tuesday at Foo Bar, but I never wrote about the idea that that district was never meant for places to stay. The rent was never supposed to be $5 a square foot forever. And I think if you don't set those expectations, then we end up with a situation where you're just really sad and pissed off about stuff like that closing. And maybe the city can find a way to keep it, but maybe, the media can do a better job of kind of setting those expectations and being a little bit more pushy about getting details on leases and time frames and things like that at the beginning of a venue opening. So
yeah, that's actually something that we've been bringing up a lot with bands and stuff like that. And I guess you would be a good person to kind of like, I guess, figure more stuff out with that. Is basically, I mean, going back to what you're saying, it is a weird thing where, like, for example, the Amsterdam closed down as well.
Yeah.
Foo Bar now, and it's like, I mean, is it a demand thing? Is it like what is that? Because obviously it has to do with the rent being raised, right? But ultimately, is it that the venue itself is not making enough money to be able?
Well,
to,
I don't know what the books look like for John over there at Amsterdam, but I know that he was dealing with a lot of noise complaints. And obviously, I don't know if you've read anything I've written about things like that, but I never understand why people move downtown.
Yeah.
And then complain.
And expect it to not be vibrant and noisy. Like, that's another thing. Like, when people build a condo downtown, I think maybe we could do a better job of writing about what are things that the builder is doing to reinforce the structure itself, to insulate sound or things like that. Like, you have to address the fact that it's in this district. Like, when New World was getting torn down, I asked the people building it, like, hey, it's fucking loud down here. Like, can you, like, fucking, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And they said that they would, the walls would be, geared and to help
with
fix
the sound.
that. So we'll see when it opens. I mean, there's not a fucking club around there anyway, so what's it really matter?
Yeah.
Well, so who typically lives in those condos there?
That's a good question.
Or is it old people or something? Like,
no, I think that's something that I think the figure is like 140 something people move to Tampa every day or something like that.
Wow.
But then you read other stories where they say that the rents are going down because right now maybe there are too many condos and empty rooms than people to move in. So I don't know exactly who lives in them. I don't know who makes noise complaints.
I just don't understand. It's like moving to Times Square and then be like, why are there always police sirens? Or noise. It's like,
why would you move downtown to a city and not expect it to be like that? I don't know.
Yeah, you move there for that. If I would think
it's the epitome of the idea of. I have a friend named Kelly who used to work at Emily. She's at Yingling now, but she calls it the vocal minority or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's happening a lot
straight up
now.
Squeaky wheel, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know what's happening. We need like people like our friends to run for city council and win seats and stuff like that.
Right, you're like noise everywhere.
So,
okay.
No, but we just need like more of allies, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That is true. Yeah, because it would have to be, I would imagine, a large number of people complaining about noise for that to actually go.
St. Pete's gonna have a reckoning here soon. They're gonna vote on the noise ordinance here, I think, next month.
And what exactly would that?
I think
entail?
it's like an issue with like what decibel should it be at what time and things like that. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
From what I have understood, it's pretty early, right? Because when we play at Green Bench, don't we have to stop at like a certain time and stuff like that?
12, I think.
Is it 12? I feel like it's earlier for some reason.
I mean, we'll see what they vote on. I mean, I don't know. Like, first block is not protected, right? Like, we read about that, and so we'll see what happens with Janice and everything. Like, I don't know. It's sometimes it feels so out of your control that you're just like reporting on it, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's super frustrating. I mean, I'm sure it's obvious. Well, for someone like you or people that are from here and have watched the scene grow and all that stuff, it's like to see stuff go away because of people complaining. I mean, that's got to be super frustrating. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's almost like, why wouldn't you want this to grow more? You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I try to be very like objective and sympathetic to, you know, everybody's concerns and things like that. But it is hard for me to sympathize with people who don't want that kind of thing, right? Because I'm fucking selfish, you know. Like, I'm just like, well, why aren't you into that? Like, you should be into that, and you should do everything that you can to support that. But that's just me. So
I want everyone to like live music all the time.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel as one-sided. As to me, like the live music calendar is the lifeblood of at least the things that I care about. So.
Yeah, because obviously, I mean, we agree, you know what I mean? But it's true. We're probably seeing it from just one side, you know? But
that's how I feel. I totally agree. And I guess the question that I was wondering is like, would people really rather have just a bunch of cover bands? Because that's what it'll turn into.
I think that will always be a thing. And I'm always kind of like, I don't know where I fall on that too, because I really believe in, you know, artists making a living. Mm-hmm. And if it does have to be through playing covers, you know, there are some artists who argue, hey, why are you playing for less than this amount of money? You know, and I don't know what it's like to be an artist, to try to make money. I'm pretty lucky. Like, my full-time job involves me doing the thing that I do. Granted, I don't get paid that much, but I don't have to worry about what I'm making gig to gig, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean,
said the same thing.
I mean, technically, you know, we obviously we wouldn't be able to make enough money off of music, so we have our full-time jobs,
right?
So I get that from that standpoint, and I'm not upset at someone who's just focusing on trying to do both, you know what I'm saying? But I'm sure there's people out there that stick to just doing that because it's easy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll know when the quantity of original music does start to go down. I mean, we will all notice that.
Yeah.
You know, but for right now, I mean, you can catch original music on almost any given night, and quite often it's a high quality. One of the bands on the bill is going to be pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
You know,
which is actually that is something that I would say I noticed moving up here compared to Miami, at least in my opinion. Down there, I feel like the bands weren't as good. Like here, it's so much more diverse up here. It's weird. It's such a weird thing.
I think maybe like, yeah, I mean, you might be right. I mean, I feel like the bands 10 years ago were pretty good. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was like down there, but I don't know. I think when a certain generation comes up with a certain kind of batch of influences, the music is bound to be pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you feel like what would you consider it to be now? Like the batch of influences now?
I mean, obviously it's kind of a dirty word right now, but like, you know, I grew up on like Ryan Adams, right? Or how about like these kids that grew up on the Strokes who worship the Strokes, or like a combination of like older bands like Radiohead, or if they're into like weird like John Cage shit, or like what's Fever Beam into, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, and you go further and further back into the things that they're into, and it just becomes this great mishmash of things, and so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we're weird because of the things that we're into.
Yeah, like what are the primary influences for your band right now? Or your latest batch of music?
I would say for our album, it's mainly like the Beatles, Radiohead, Modest Mouse, and the Pixies, probably. I would say that.
And the Pixies and Modest Mouse come from almost two different eras, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about, this stretch. Whereas I would think Modest Mouse would be very distinctive for that, you know, generation, you know. I think kids your age grew up on that.
Modest Mouse was like taking off when the Pixies stopped, basically.
Right, and then the Pixies went through everything that they went through, but the music remains, so.
Yeah. Well, so how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 34. I just turned 34 in February.
Okay, so you make it sound like you're like way older than us. And you're not.
I'm pretty. Well, mid-20s, like that's pretty young, man. Like I could still eat a lot of food, like when I was like your age. Like, you know, like things are different now.
I could eat McDonald's back then.
I quit eating McDonald's. My New Year's resolution last year was to stop eating McDonald's. Only McDonald's. So I still ate like Checkers and shit. So this year I quit all fast food except for Taco Bell.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Taco Bus.
No, I haven't had Taco Bus in a long time. Renee's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how involved he is anymore, but
is he the owner?
he's the guy that kind of started it.
He
had that taco truck on MLK and
dude,
Tampa Street.
there's a bunch of locations opening up. I've seen them in like gas stations.
Well, I don't know
now.
how involved he is now with Taco Bus.
Gotcha.
I don't want to speak for him, but
True.
I would imagine that he's felt like that menu has gone down.
Oh, really?
Ooh, shots
Well, I
fired.
mean, I don't know. I mean,
Renee.
like, I'm sure he's like a little bit more removed. I don't know. I don't want to speak for him.
No, I feel you. I
I think his heart's somewhere else than where the Taco Bus menu is.
like,
I'll eat that shit if it's in front of me, but
well, you would know because like we probably came here when he may have been out by then. You know what I'm saying? When
well,
we got
every
here.
hipster in this area would be like, "Yo, I used to eat at Taco Bus when that shit was cool, man."
When it
That's
was
like
hip.
that's
Yeah.
like Four Rivers. Have you had their food?
I do. I have.
Yeah.
But still, it's like you gotta go all the way down there. It's fucking expensive.
Yeah, it is.
You know, like
Yeah.
I'd rather. No offense, I love Four Rivers. I fucking love it. I love eating off that brown piece of paper. Like I love everything about
Yeah.
it. But I'd rather go to like Conan's, like off of Cypress. Have you been there near Jefferson High School?
No.
Conan's.
Conan's barbecue, man.
Oh, there you go. That's a new
Shout
one.
out to Jason Rodriguez.
We're going out there, dude.
Yeah,
Who told me about it. It's really cool. It's great stuff.
All right, so
Speaking of smoking pot, pick up some food from Conan's, smoke out, and then go to the end of Cypress down to the beach over there.
you'll be in heaven.
That sounds sounds pretty
I'll
good.
go to sleep.
So I have a lot of questions.
Dude, I'll
for
answer
you.
all the questions that you have. I'm in a really good mood, and you guys are making me very comfortable. So
Yay!
Yeah.
So I saw that you went to the Jesuit school.
I went to Jesuit. I graduated in 2003.
Okay, and how was that experience?
It was awesome. So, I mean, at first, I went to public school my whole life. I went to Booker T. Washington Middle School. And then before that, I guess I moved here when I was 11. So I was Baycrest. And then
Wait, you said you moved here when you were
I was 11. So I was born in Hawaii.
Oh.
Lived there till I was 3. Then I lived in Southern California in a neighborhood called Canoga Park in the Valley until I was 11. Then I moved here. Went to Baycrest, and then I went to Booker T. Washington Middle Magnet School, right there off in Nebraska. Saw my first penis that wasn't somebody in my family, like, because a hooker, like, flashed us in the morning. My first day of 6th grade, you know. And then I finished that, and my dad says, hey, I want you to take this test, see if you get into this school, which was Jesuit at the time. I didn't quite put 2 and 2 together. I'm not that bright. And then I passed the test, and my dad's like, hey, you're going to this school? And I was like, all right. It's like, oh, there's no girls.
It's an all boys.
It's
school.
an all boys Catholic high school.
Oh,
so
fun.
I think on paper you'd be like, oh, God, that's gotta suck. And it was bad maybe for like my romantic life or my social life. I didn't make any sports teams.
No.
Kept stats for basketball and football, which I loved. And then I did wrestling for like. I was undefeated because I did one match and I won and I quit. I was like, this is too confrontational for me. Like, you know, like, so I did that, but it was great. I mean, I will always say I made some of the best connections there. The way that my teachers talked to me was awesome. And, you know, I have a deep belief in something bigger than us. Mm-hmm. So I was able to explore like parts of like as fractured and broken as Catholicism is, you know, I did find some kind of like connection, not necessarily with the faith, which I was Catholic my whole life, but you know, just it was a good time to be a teenager and be surrounded by in that environment for me, because you know, I could ask anybody any question that I had about what was going on in my life, and I could get an honest answer, you know. So
you feel like the school itself wasn't necessarily like super strict, like you could kind of question things and they weren't.
yeah, I mean, I feel like the Jesuit order is probably one of the most free thinking. I mean, if you poll them now, there's probably a ton of Trumpers in there and things like that, but you get the opposite too. Like my dad was that crazy guy on the news, like saying, we're the WMDs, like George W. Bush, like a lot of crazy, like liberal people in there too. Like, but for me, the Jesuit experience is about that, questioning things, questioning everything.
Yeah.
You know, even I mean, look at, I believe, God, I can't remember if Pope Francis is a Jesuit or not. I think he is.
I don't know.
I mean, but look what he's doing. I mean,
Yeah. He's pretty.
he's bringing it all out, baby. Like it is it is fucked up right now to be a Catholic. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
so
Well, the funny thing is that I also like that's somewhere where we can relate because actually I went to public school my whole life until high school. High school I went to a Catholic high school as well, and
Not all boys though.
no, it was
this is in Miami.
Yeah, in Miami.
Yeah.
Actually in the hood in Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I know the Jesuit is that the one that's across from Al Lopez?
We're on Himes right now. The campus is gorgeous. It didn't look like that when I was there. But
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, the one with that soccer field.
they got a
believe
nice soccer
so,
field. They got
yeah.
a bell tower. Bro,
Yeah.
they got it all.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
jealous,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Donor base is strong.
Just like UT. I'm actually a UT alum.
Okay,
alumni,
right on.
too.
Yeah, that's like the prettiest place to do undergrad in America,
Yeah.
probably.
It is, man. The schooling wasn't that bad considering
Right.
the view, you know. But yeah, so I was also raised Catholic, and I feel like my school was actually, in my opinion, quite the opposite. Like I feel like I guess in Hispanic culture, you know, you kind of don't question religion really. You
Sure.
know, I don't know if
They don't give you the tools when you're young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like going to that school kind of like made me, I guess, from understanding it more, it opened my eyes to kind of, I guess, seeing it from a more scientific basis rather than, you know, like just strictly religion or like traditional.
Yeah, science
basis.
is okay.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so in that sense, I guess the opposite led to the same thing of like questioning everything. You know what I'm saying? But that's interesting though. Do you know who Bert Kreischer is?
Yeah, the comic.
Yeah. I think he went to Jesuit as well, right?
I believe that he did.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that last time he was here or something. Like, because there's a lot of, obviously the comedy scene in Tampa is really great too. So a lot of those kids come from that kind of like strain too, and they know that guy. So yeah,
that's cool.
That is cool.
He's one of my tops right now. I love his
comedy
comedy.
is a whole another level of creativity and putting yourself out there. You know,
I do find all the podcasts I listen to are all from comedians. I don't listen to any other podcasts
because I can't
really.
stop fucking talking.
Yeah. So
No,
many
that's probably a cliche that
so-
we're like pigeonholing them.
No, I'm pretty sure it's true. So many
Okay.
opinions. So many opinions.
Well, you're working out material like out loud the whole time.
Exactly.
You know?
That's
So-
it's a good exercise, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, they
keep it
actually do
going.
say that too. They literally say that the podcast is a great like source for material. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, you're just riffing off of your mind, and if you can free your mind and somehow get a document, it's like a win-win. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. You're
So,
recording your next
yeah.
skit, so
Yeah.
it works.
You're making money while coming up with
Making money is
ideas.
questionable.
Well, for
Yeah.
for them, you know,
Yeah.
they're with those sponsors and stuff like that. you
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Yeah.
It's all about trying to find a way to make a living.
Doing what
You
you,
know.
want.
Yeah, and not like make a living in the traditional sense, just an existence, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
How can I continue to live and have a certain quality of life,
and through your passion too. I mean,
which is extremely hard to do. I
yeah.
mean, or-
So going through passion then. So where did you? I guess when did you get the bug for writing and in that sense and all that?
So at Jesuit, I mean, I believe I always used to journal before that. I have a box full of my journals underneath my bed. But I had a teacher named Robert Wiener, an English teacher at the time. Right, you get in there, it's all guys school, yeah, and you're like, what the fuck? But and I never felt like he really ever noticed me. But he always encouraged us. We always wrote. We would listen to music every day, different band. I got exposed to so many bands in his class, and we'd write just whatever before class. And so I really did that a lot. And eventually, I don't know where I used to spend a lot of money at Sound Exchange. I don't know if you know that store.
Is that
There's one on Nebraska. There
Okay,
was
yeah.
one on Livingston, which I don't know if it's still there. But anyway, and I started going to shows at some point. I had a friend who was in a band called Stalling Dawn a long time ago, and they used to play like a lot of those Brass Mug, Pegasus, State Theater shows where there would be like 18 or fucking not 18, like 8 local bands. You'd have to sell fucking tickets and shit.
Yeah.
And I think they really got me into like going out, and then that turns into trying to catch national bands. Fast forward, I fail USF.
You fail USF.
I went to USF after high school, failed out in 3 semesters, and then went to HCC, started on newspaper. At the same time, I'm working on the radio station there, so I'm doing music, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I can't afford to go to shows anymore. So I just combined I don't know.
So
I always like to write and tell stories.
So you started a radio station at HCC?
I worked on the radio station there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I had a radio show there, and did that. I mean, that was back when they would send you CDs. I remember I got the first Adele CD, and I was like, she's gonna be something. You know?
Really?
Yeah, Chasing Pavements was a single, I think.
That's crazy.
It is crazy to think about. It largely works the same way. Like, you take a chance on something, and then, you know, and then something crazy happens, and look where she is now.
Right.
So did you start? So when exactly did you start writing? Like when did you start?
It had
doing
to
that?
be like at like newspaper. So I was telling stories at newspaper at HCC, and then my first editor. So I reached out to Joe DeCunto, who's now with Broken Mold Entertainment, but he had Thanks Management, and he was working at Reacts at the time, which was an old music magazine here. And actually, funny, our editor-in-chief at Creative Loafing now, Scott Harrell, he was editor-in-chief at Reacts when I started to read that magazine. It was a free monthly, and I remember reading his like intro letter. And in a lot of ways, the things that he was saying dictated the way that I was influenced by what he said and how you should feel about your scene and things like that. I read product reviews from Sean Kyle, who was in the Beauvilles and who's now Florida Kilos, produces stuff and plays solo. And that was kind of like my intro to that. And Joe gave me a chance, you know, to write. I was writing 2 reviews a week. My first interview was Passion Pit, which was really cool because at the time they had that album, Manners, I think it was called. And I got to talk to somebody from that band to preview a show. And Joe gave me every opportunity that I ever wanted, you know, and then that turned, I cold emailed Leilani Polk at Creative Loafing, started freelancing there, and somehow got in at the Times, Tampa Bay Times, and ended up doing a weekly live music thing for them for, I don't know, 6 years. Jay Krillin was my editor there, and he was amazing to me. He treated me really well and gave me a lot of freedom to write about the things that I wanted for a newspaper that I had read since I was a kid. I did the same thing at Creative Loafing, and I got lucky that Leilani was moving to Seattle 3 years ago, and I had been freelancing for the paper for like 6 years or whatever. So, and it just worked out. It's just a lot of luck on my end.
That's cool. So you would say then that you pretty much got like the dream job that you wanted.
My task right now is to live up to everything great that's been given to me. Like, I have everything that I ever wanted in life. Yeah. I truly do. Yeah. This is all I ever wanted to do. Whether that's like a fucking towny thing to say or whatever, like, this is what I want to do. I think I want to die here in Tampa. I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't move for a different opportunity, but I love the challenge of trying to do this. I don't know that the same person can do this job forever because I think the community should have a different voice. But my job right now is to live up to every great thing that has been given to me. So
I think the main point in anyone's life is, are you happy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but happiness comes and goes even when you have like a dream job per se, right? There are fucking days when I'm just as unhappy as anybody else. Like, I go through every up and down that I think everybody else goes through. I have really bad days, and I have good ones. So,
are you generally happy though?
I think so.
I think so. Because you're right though. Because it's not you're never going to be 100% happy.
I think at heart I'm a happy person, but you know, stuff can get hard, and life is hard, and the newspaper business is hard. You don't know if people give a fuck, or it's stressful. You know, like getting everything right all the time, or even when you get it right, you can still get it wrong. Because what if you told the wrong part of the story that, you know, you received when you were interviewing somebody? Like, you know, and there's just a lot of doubt, self-doubt. You get it. Like, you guys are musicians.
No,
you know?
and like you said, it's interesting. Like, you know, you think that the scene can use a new voice sometimes, which is, you know, if you think about it too much, it kind of creeps on you. You know, like, is it time?
I don't want to misrepresent what's going on here. Like, that's my biggest fear is not telling the story of what's going on. Yeah. You know, and missing something. That's
actually that's an interesting concept to think that you would want to give someone else a chance to, I guess, to not reiterate, but I guess come up with other ideas about what I guess their view is on what's happening. I've never even thought about that before. But I do feel like right now we're at a time where journalism and writing in general is like, we need honest people out there. You know what I'm saying? It's
you need honesty and objectivity. I mean, and somebody who's deeply committed to doing the research and the work, you know? So if anybody's out there that wants to do that and can write in English. And that's another thing that was a little bit challenging, was that I don't know what they're teaching in school now, but some of the edits are a little bit hard, you know. But some kids write really well, some kids don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it on. I mean, I don't really know how much time people actually put into writing things on social media, but you see grammatical errors all over the place, and
yeah,
Yep.
well, imagine seeing that. Like, it's not that bad anymore. I think it was just a phase, but it's challenging. We have a couple of like interns that are coming that I'm really excited about. So I mean, I just feel like I was lucky to come up under Leilani, and now I'm in this position. I would love to find, you know, somebody, you know, who would do that. I mean, I got to work on my own website, Suburban Apologist, that was started by Joel Cook from Reacts. So I got lucky. I just want more of that. I want more blogs. I want more shit to read. Like, and maybe I just don't know where it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it completely. Like, I love Mew, that website, but I don't know how many local music websites are there in Tampa.
I don't know either. Tampa
Bay Music News. But you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if even, I guess, reading articles, because I do feel like I do read articles, you know, but and that's going back to the whole like grammatical thing. Unfortunately, I feel like the articles that I read tend to not be like that. It's a little bit of like the clickbait stuff, and
we do that.
You do that too?
Yeah, I mean, we do a little bit of that. Like, you know, we work at All Weekly, so our job at the All Weekly is to be a little bit irreverent, write about stuff that the daily paper's not going to write, say stuff that the daily paper's not going to say. Like, I love the Times, but there's like shit that they can't say. And so we're happy to say that. And we definitely want to cover stuff that's outside of the realm of what they cover.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's actually, you could compare that to a podcast, for example, where a podcast isn't necessarily, they're not beholden to anyone, you know, depending on who it is. But that, I feel like there's a high demand for subjects like that, or for material like that. You get what I'm saying? Because people want like honest shit. They don't want stuff that they don't want to read something that they feel like is being, they're holding back something from, you know, like whatever the.
Yeah, I mean, we don't hold back a lot. Like I said, I feel really lucky to work at Creative Loafing. It's a paper I grew up reading. It's been around for 30 years. Like, deeply committed to like telling the local story. Like, yeah, you know, like, and for me, that's all I care about. Yeah, is like the local music calendar and what's happening locally and like who is here. So I'm super lucky, and I just want to continue to do that, but I want to find more people who can do that too.
Well, hopefully, I don't know. I mean, I would love that. I would love to hear if like we posted this and that actually like came into fruition. That would be super nice.
It all takes time.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I'm learning is you can't force anything. So,
So going back to the whole writing. So when you're gearing up for an interview, how exactly do you prepare yourself for that? Like what's the process of that?
So for me, like one thing I really don't want to do in an interview is ask questions that the person has been asked before. It's probably pretty inevitable, but a way I try to get around that is by reading as many interviews as I can. So like I said, I'll set aside an hour or two for reading interviews. But now with podcasts and everything, I can passively listen to interviews while I'm doing stuff, pick up on things. And it's great because you're hearing the person's voice, so you're not as nervous when you get on the phone with them, you know? So I just read as much, and I have a Google Doc sheet. I start a new Google Doc for every interview that I do, and I just start writing questions down, partial, otherwise, facts. Anything that strikes me, I take a note, and then I organize it, and then usually I only have 20 minutes on the phone, like max, you know? So then I know how much work I can put into it. So that's really just what I try to do, is read as many interviews and not ask the same questions. Because if there's an answer already out there, I'm not going to try to get the same answer.
Right.
Well, and also you're only going to get a dull response.
Yeah, then you're boring the person and you're wasting their time. Like, you truly are wasting their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does that work exactly? Is it usually like their PR people approach you?
Yeah, with the national stuff, yeah, it's like, so I'm lucky right now. I've been writing about music in the area for so long that I get like close to 1,000 emails a day.
Yeah, imagine.
So it's just like PR companies and things like that. But I mostly only reply to things happening here. So, and then thankfully we have the weekly paper, so I kind of have an idea of what I want to write about every week. So I'll try to get a local in, but if it's gonna be a national, it's a national. Like, you know what I mean? So, and then I just say, hey, can I talk to so and so? Or maybe the venue will be like, hey, we have the show coming up. Can we help you get an interview? Like Ruth Eckert is really good at that. You know, all the big ones are really good at that. A lot of the promoters are really good at that. So many times promoters have helped me get an interview that I probably had no business getting.
Really?
You know, so, but, and then it's up to you to do the right thing when you get there and ask the right questions. So, but with locals, I try to see what's out there. I want to I love getting a record of like how a local band came to be or whatever. That way, if somebody Googles it or something, like, I like being part of that story, you know, having told that.
How would you suggest then to,
she's fine.
Get her furry butt out of there.
So how would you suggest to like a local band that might not have a PR group, like how would you suggest that they, I guess, put together material to contact, you know, someone like yourself that...
I think it's important, and we went through this, you kind of had it all down. I think it's important to have a place on your website where somebody who is interested, I mean, I still work in print media. In a lot of ways, that's a dinosaur, but there's been so many times when I haven't been able to put a band's picture in the paper because they don't have a photo asset.
Yeah, like a high-res photo.
Yeah, that's suitable. So, you know, have that stuff ready, have a bio, have links, you know, and then just like reach out. Like, I'm somebody who will tell you if you're annoying me.
That's good.
So,
Really? Like, okay, so give us a scenario where you would tell someone.
or if like, I'll be like, okay, I got it, you know, or I'll be like, hey, I'm really learning to say no because I was scared to say no. And it's like, hey, we'll get you on the next one. Like, I love Andrew Pellegrino, who plays drums he played a Nine Horn, and he's got a new project called Maudlin Moon, who's opening for D-Alps this weekend. But he reached out to me and wanted something. I was like, fuck, I was trying to figure out who that band was when I saw them on the bill, but I couldn't. And I'm sorry, I don't have the time to write about it before this first show. Can we get ahead of the next thing? Whereas before I'd be really fucking bummed because I didn't get it. But now I know I can, you know, so I'm learning to say no in that sense. But as far as what bands can do, yeah, definitely have like the assets ready, the bio, links to music.
How far in advance as well would you suggest?
I'll take... Dude, you can tell me if you have an idea for a fucking song. You can tell me right then, and then we can start down the path because I need such a long lead, just because maybe I'm just disorganized, or maybe I just have a lot of shit to do. Like, I don't know what it is, but I need time. So 2-week minimum. I would love to know, like, when you're about done with an album or when you're starting to get in the studio. Sammy Hughes, a rapper who's here locally, he invited me into the studio to see them track some stuff. And that was great. Like, I was way ahead of the album, and now he has this album coming out soon that I'm very aware of, where sometimes people will tell me that an album's coming out like a week beforehand, and there's nothing I can do, you know? And hopefully I'll be able to write a lot about Sammy because we've been in touch a lot, you know?
Yeah, that's actually really good information right there.
Yeah.
That's really good information,
you know?
honestly.
And I get that it's not really on you to share stuff on me. Like, it's your life. It's not mine. Like, it's your life. You do whatever that you want.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, that's kind of what I need. Like, I need a high-touch situation.
If we're asking you to do something like that, well, then it should be to what you need in order to get that done. You know.
Yeah, but you shouldn't cater to me also. Like, I guess it is like a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly.
Like, you know, but I want you to, I don't want to get in the way of what you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get in the way. I always ask for premieres from bands, but I don't want to premiere if it's going to prevent you. Like Jordan Esker, he's going to premiere a song on Ear Milk tomorrow. You know, is it him that's doing Ear Milk? I think he's doing Ear Milk. I don't want to get in the way of that. But if CL can do a premiere, you guys did one with us. Like, I want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And I want to see you do it in a bigger website down the road.
Yeah.
So I never want to get in the way of anything that a band is doing, whether it's creative, thought process. I don't want you to have to think about me. But if you do want to work me into your thought process, I would be very grateful, you know?
And give him 2 weeks.
At least, dude, at least. Because we turn the live music calendar in a week beforehand.
Right.
You know? And I'm fucking slow, so it takes me time, you know?
Yeah.
So.
So when you get all these emails, how do you usually organize them?
So I take a live music calendar. So if I know a show's happening, I put it on a calendar.
Okay.
And then I'll see what's going on. Separate it into that 7-day chunk. That's what I write about. You know, obviously shit gets thrown out, and then that's it. I live and die by the live music calendar.
Interesting. That's
which
cool.
kind of hurts sometimes because if you're not playing shows, then I don't know a lot about you. Like a lot of times I'll ask a band, hey, when's your next show? Because that's a good conduit and easy way for me to write about your band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. So what, I guess if I can speak from from my experience, I've noticed, or not that I noticed, but we're like super antisocial, and it's taken us some time to like, I guess, be more part of the scene and just kind of like talk about ourselves a lot, because it's just hard for me to talk about myself on social media.
Sucks.
Yeah, it's just weird, you know. It feel like, it's not that it's not honest, it's just more of like, it's a weird feeling to think that you're posting something about yourself like publicly. Like I just feel like I would rather do that with you, like for example, person to person.
Yeah.
This is why like me doing it in this medium is not that hard, because I'm looking at you now and we're talking, like having a conversation. So this is a lot easier to do that, and I felt like that was a good medium to do that. But yeah, it's weird. Like I don't know. I hope that there's more bands that are not as afraid to reach out, you know, than there are. I guess it's more of a question, but I just wonder if bands typically are.
I think it is hard to like be online and talk about yourself. Like it feels fucking cheesy.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, like I think you should be proud of the thing that you're doing. And I think a good way, like you said, to get over that is to talk more about other people than yourself.
Yeah.
You know, in a really genuine way. Because like there's disingenuous ways of fucking talking to people or shouting them out or things like that. Like we live in the internet culture. Like it's a fucking thirst culture.
You see it all over like Instagram,
you know?
Dude. Instagram is
but you'll know it when like you're in front of them. Like you'll know, like, you know, who's about it and who isn't. And I think a good way to get over that thing where you're like, oh, I don't want to self-promote too much, just have like a fucking percentage rule. I don't know, and say, I'll talk about myself this percentage of time, and for the rest of the time I want to do everything I can to find shit that I really fucking like, whether it's music, comedy, you know, whatever, fucking animals, and really be passionate about that and put that out more, because then that part of you that feels guilty will be like, well, at least I'm like doing that, you know, because like I put my whole Facebook page is all fucking shit that we write on Creative Loafing, which is like the most selfish thing ever, you know, but I know I have to do it. Right.
Why would you think that?
Because it's our own shit that we write. Like it's our own web traffic and things like that. Like, you know?
Yeah, but you're talking about the things that are going on.
And that's how I get by. Like, because I'm like, well, I exist to write about other people. Right. Okay. So, but,
that's so funny that you say that, because I don't feel that at all.
Well, I'm glad you don't, but I always feel like,
I can definitely see that, though. I can definitely see that. That's why it's weird to hit share on our stuff and share it on my page.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, look at this.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think because the algorithms aren't kind either, like especially on Facebook. So
yeah,
the shit might never hit. Like, you know, so.
That's funny. So who are some of your milestones in your interviewing career? Like, who would you say, like, you're so happy you got to interview this person?
Man,
I would imagine that you were probably nervous as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would all like deal with like how nervous I was. I got to interview Santana once, which was cool, and he was really cool because he's like, "Hey, Ray," he's like, "I'm excited about the show." And first off, you're like, "Why the fuck am I talking to Santana?" Yeah. And I think it had something to do with the fact that he was playing Amelie, and perhaps it hadn't sold as well.
You're like, why the fuck am I talking?
Yeah, so I told him I was super nervous. I was like, dude, I'm really nervous right now. And he's like, dude, it's okay, man. You got a good energy. I can feel it. So we got loose, and it was a really short interview. It was like 15 minutes, and I fucking misquoted him in it.
Oh, really?
We were talking about guns, and he has like a pretty hard stance on guns. Mm-hmm. And he had been cussing like in Spanish, like in the interview already. And he said something like, yeah, I don't understand why people just want me to play music and not do anything else, like I'm your puto or something. Oh. And I thought he said puto, the derogatory slur, essentially.
Yeah.
So I fucking led with it in my interview. And then the next day I go on his Facebook to see if he shared the interview, right? And he goes, I have to clear something up. I said in an interview yesterday, I didn't say puto, I said poodle.
Like I'm
your poodle.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
and I was so caught up in the interview and trying to do like a clickbait type of thing. And so I played the audio back, that part of the audio, for a friend of mine in the office who has a heavy accent like Santana. And I said, what's he saying? And Julio looks at me and goes, oh, poodle. like the dog. And I was like, oh, fuck. So that was a big one. I kind of fucked up.
Wait, but so what did you say though? Like,
so I corrected it and issued a retraction.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess.
And they were, I mean, his people were okay with it. We'll see if they let me talk to him again. He's playing again. He's playing LA, so.
That's crazy. Wow.
Puto.
But I've interviewed a lot of people that I can't think of them off the top of my head. Rhiannon Giddens is one from Carolina Chocolate Drops. We had a great talk. I lost that interview because of the phone.
Oh, really?
Really?
But I've interviewed so many people that I never ever thought I would ever get to talk to. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but it's been really great.
There's that many.
Yeah, I mean, I do an interview or two every week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So for that Santana one, was that in person or was that over the phone?
No, it's all almost always over the phone because they're advancing a show, you know?
It's the easiest way to get a hold of them.
Right. I did I think I've done like 2 or 3 because they're not in town, right? They're in another town.
They're doing some.
Or they're doing press while they're at home before a tour. So like Lucy Dacus, I don't know if you're into like indie music, but she's prepping for a tour that's coming through here. I talked to her a month and a half ago or something.
And
Like
it's just gonna happen now.
the show doesn't happen until May. You know? So yeah, we talk on the phone a lot. I've maybe interviewed 3 or 4 big artists in person, but
And I guess that's why you get PR people, because they think of those things.
yeah.
I
don't know what the cost is. I'm sure it's expensive as hell.
Yeah. I for example, there's no way I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking like, oh, a week before is fine, and it's like I'm sure a PR person would be like, no.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah.
No, it's got to be. I would imagine like a month or two.
Well, it's like if you let's say you plan a tour. Say you guys are going to go on tour in May, from May 15th to the 31st. You're going to play. How many days is that? 15, 31st.
About 20.
It's like 20 days.
Yeah.
So let's say you play 15 shows in 20 days. That's probably the least amount of shows you can play and not make and still live, right? So you have 15 cities that you have to advance the show in May. So you got to think those got to run in the paper or whatever website before May starts.
Yeah.
So when do I need to do those interviews? I don't know, March or something. Do you have the shows booked at March? Like, I don't know what it's like for you guys.
So yeah, March we're in March and we're booking for.
But leading up to that, you're trying to knock on all these doors and get somebody to interview or write about your band.
Yeah.
And how many follow-up emails is that? How often can you follow up? Once a week, maybe?
Yeah.
You know?
What would you suggest as like how many times would you suggest?
I love like a once a week follow-up until I say, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Dude, I love bands of follow-up, man.
Yeah.
Like, because I need it. I'm so disorganized.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a rule of thumb is if, you know, for anything, for venues, for promoters, for
But I don't know how it is for anybody else. That's just how it is for me.
Yeah.
You know? I like somebody to be up my ass. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the hard thing too for a band is like trying to figure out like how many times you should respond or how many times you should
I would say
follow
maybe
up.
like read the paper. That's a big thing. Read the paper where you want to be covered, and then get in touch with some of the bands that have been like covered and say, hey, how do you think I should talk to this person? I don't want to bother them too much. It's all genuine, right? Like, I just want to do what's best for them. What's best for my band I'm coming through. Because you trade shows when you're in bands, so they have those relationships. So that's like permanent makeup. Chris is really good at that. You know, he's really good at facilitating relationships between myself and the bands that he brings.
That's so I guess going back to like the booking thing, like because I just thought of that when you were mentioning it, like I'm pretty sure for most like bigger acts that can actually bring like ticket sales and whatnot, I think they book out like I think they usually book a
Well,
year.
they're probably booking agents too.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
so.
Yeah, but that was just a fucking one off there.
It's March and we booked for June, right?
Yeah.
Us?
Yeah.
Yes.
But there are a lot of bands in town that are really good at booking shows out of state. I mean, and
Pleasures.
I mean, they live on the road. Like Catherine Kelly, that's one of those. Like, well, it's Catherine Kelly. I forgot her third name now. Larson. Yeah, they live on the road, man. Fucking Rogers in that band now. That band's awesome.
I haven't seen them. Actually, I haven't seen them.
God,
I've seen Pleasures. But
Pleasures is rad. Pleasures was one of those bands that was around when I was writing like for Reacts. They were Sons of Hippies and things like that. So you probably remember that from Miami.
What?
Sons of Hippies, Catherine's old band. God, man,
No.
she's the epitome of that.
No.
She lives
Why don't we know about that?
lives on the road,
I have
man.
no idea, dude.
That's great. They're great. Clang, Permanent Makeup. There's so many bands that go on tour locally that are so good at what they do. Glove, I think, is really good at that.
I think you'd be surprised to know that we're relatively new at all this, to be honest.
Everybody's relatively new at some point, right? Like there's like that fear of failing, but who gives a fuck? Like if you fuck up,
Yeah.
as long as you don't hurt anybody or like destroy somebody's relationship or livelihood, don't be afraid to make that mistake and ask all the bands around you that are good at it.
That makes sense.
Trade shows for sure. I think this is like a big thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The main thing like that we're doing now is if, like, for example, a band hit us up about a show that we already have booked, and like we're gonna help them find other bands. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they hit us up for a date that we already have a show for. So we're like, look, we can't play it, but we can get you in touch with other bands in the
Perfect.
area.
I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, man. Being nice, honestly. That's
Dude,
like
all
that's
you-
all you have to do.
It's like the rule of life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
just help somebody and don't expect anything
Yeah,
back.
no, exactly.
You know?
Yep.
Because you'll start to get real salty if you like
Yep.
feel like shit needs to be reciprocated. That's
Yeah.
like a life rule. Mm-hmm. But then again, you don't want to get used. But I think we know when we're getting used, you know?
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
having a balance.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm with you on that.
I feel like I wouldn't notice though if I was being used.
It's hard to tell, man. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. It's like it's a tough thing.
I think you'd notice.
I don't know. I don't know. But so I another thing I saw or I read is that you played guitar.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
bummed with that MySpace thing because the songs I had recorded were on MySpace and I forgot how to play them. Like I have the lyrics, like, but I forgot what they sound like. And, like those files are like on a computer that I probably threw against the wall.
Oh my god.
Like, you know, like, so now, because I thought I wrote some decent songs,
But now
you
they're
know,
gone?
but now I think they're pretty sure they're gone. Yeah.
You don't like? Do you remember the melody at all? Anything?
No, dude. So I haven't
Holy shit.
played guitar or like written a song in like a really long time. Like I can play, but I haven't gotten better at it, right? I haven't improved. So, and when you don't listen to it enough of the same music, like you have to listen to a record like 18, 20, 25, 100 times, then you might be able to start writing a song that's like on that record. I haven't done that in so long.
Well, do you have any like? Would you want to? Or are you too busy to
What?
to go into like writing again?
I think to say that I'm too busy is an excuse.
Yeah.
I would love to. But there are other things that I want to do, like write, or I play soccer on Wednesdays with my wife.
Oh.
I play goalie. It's nothing crazy.
That's still
it's like
awesome.
a 5-on-5 thing. Like, but I like doing that on Wednesday. I watch The Bachelor. You know, so that's something that I do. But yeah, I mean, I would like to. So I still play. You know, I still learn other people's songs, but
Yeah, it's
You know.
it's not your main focus. It's not your primary. Yeah,
I enjoy it. You know,
I get that. I just read that, so I thought that was interesting because I was gonna.
Where'd
do
you
one of
read
the
that?
questions.
Where'd you read that?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I feel like who is it? Who is that? Nardwar.
Nardwar's awesome.
Yeah,
He's
he
like
always-
interview goals, you know.
Okay, so this was yeah, because I read this also. The way that you described, I think some of the music that you like, I found it very like compelling the way that you wrote about it.
Okay.
So, what do you look for?
Thank you.
What do you look for in a song that catches your ear?
So I've learned that I'm like, for me, the songs I love immediately, the things that I like about them are melodies.
Cheers to that.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I think I like songs in a certain key, or at least ones that stick to a certain set of chords within a key, and have like certain minor chords or seventh chords in certain places in the tempo, or not the tempo, but just like if we're looking at the music on like on sheet music, like formulaic, right? So I do like that kind of stuff. Melody is big for me.
So you like Radiohead?
You know, I'm not as big of a Radiohead fan as big Radiohead fans are. I do love Radiohead. I don't think they're overrated.
I don't think they're overrated.
No, I mean, like they've definitely written some of the greatest songs around.
I think it's funny when people say that though. They're overrated. It's like, who?
Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't get it. Like I don't even like the Beatles, but I wouldn't say that about them either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, it's melody for me, and tone, like a certain timbre of the voice. I love. Yeah.
So, in terms of melody and I guess like this, like I guess the tone of the voice. Like, do you find yourself liking more unique voices, or do you find that you like more kind of like a traditional voice? Like, what do you think?
I can appreciate like a very good traditional vocal. Like, I don't like Michael Bublé. Mm-hmm. He has a very clean thing, but I guess I can enjoy his music. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I love Ryan Adams. As bad as that
I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with the music.
He was in a band. Oh, did you know what's going on with him now? Mm-mm. Oh man, it's not good.
What is it?
He's, put it this way, he's probably going to be investigated by the FBI for exposing his penis to an underage person.
Is it like his own thing, or is he in a band?
He was in a band called Whiskey Town. Okay. But then he put out a lot of great solo records. Heartbreaker is probably my second favorite album of all time. So for me, he's ruined in that sense.
Yeah. I guess what's your take on that? Because with all this like Michael Jackson stuff, R. Kelly stuff happening.
What's so crazy is I'm a big believer in believing the victim. Like that's my big thing.
Of course.
And for the first time, when I watched the Michael Jackson, I started watching it, I was like, I had that one moment straight where I was like, nah, I don't believe him. Because I didn't want to. So I kind of like understood how like people who defend R. Kelly and say he didn't do it could feel like that.
Yeah.
Like, because you love Step in the Name of Love that much.
Yeah.
Like, I love so many Michael Jackson songs that much. Like, I could see it with Ryan Adams,
This is
so it's kind of a letdown. This is
going to sound terrible, but there, in my opinion, there's a separation though. I
don't know where I stand on that yet.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like I'm not saying it's still not a rooted thing in that person to maybe be that way, but it's just like, this is still the creative process, like I'm just making music.
Do you know this band Pine Grove?
No.
That's another band. I mean, it's kind of a recent band, and some shit went down there. But yeah, or the Beatles even.
Yeah,
I mean, John Lennon was a shitty person.
He admitted it. He admitted that he beat.
Or David Bowie. I mean, David Bowie could probably be Me Too now.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's true.
So XXX Tensha.
Yeah, Tentacion. Yeah.
Right. That's a big one. That's one that really kind of Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Who else who's yet to be uncovered? So I still struggle with the separating the art from the artist.
Yeah.
I don't know where I fall on it. I mean, but my main thing is like, we have to believe the victims like right away. And it's crazy because you could say, hey, Ray sexually harassed me, and I would want you to side with the victim, because I don't want somebody to how we got here was because people were discrediting people.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's how we got here.
Yeah.
And we can't go down that route. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. If you're a person that's getting accused of those things and you didn't do it, then you sit back and let it ride.
I don't know. I've never been there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's like. Yeah.
I think the issue is it's like, unfortunately for like the Michael Jackson case and stuff like that, it's really hard to prove, right, that he did anything. There's no way, like there's no evidence. I mean, in my opinion, there is, right, because he obviously had a weird relationship with young boys.
Right.
But in some instances, it's like, I do agree with you. You should believe the victim, but then you should also make sure that they're telling the truth as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't just vilify someone just because someone says 100%.
So. Yeah, and that's what I meant by let it ride, because it's like things are going to get investigated, and you have to let it happen. And it's like weird to see the reactions of some of these people that get accused of these things, and it's like, well, your reaction right now is telling me otherwise. So, it's just a balance, I guess.
I think overall the thing that's bad to do is take it in the we can't take sexual assault in the context of fame and celebrity.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have to realize that sexual violence and things like that is a very it's a thing that happens on the most surface level. And if we take it in the context of celebrity and start to hold normal abusers and things like that in kind of that light, then we're really not doing anything to really bring that up to light on a surface level.
I also find it crazy that someone would think that someone in that position would have power. I mean, they have power, they have celebrity, they have money, they have some sort of power. So it's like, it's easier for them to get away with something like this.
It's easier. Yeah.
Dude, I think for men in general, that's the world. That's my opinion. That's the world we live in. Like, a man has power.
Yeah.
It's not, the world is not equality is a long way away, man. Like, it's really bad.
Yeah, it's funny because like I have friends that are like, you know, no, a girl can do anything a guy can, and it's like, look, dude, there's a reason why when you're growing up as a female, you're told not to do or go to places with dudes alone. There just is, and if you can't accept that, you kind of open yourself up for more trouble than you should, you know, than accepting it and working within those parameters. But you know, I agree. Equality is a far way.
Oh, we're a long ways away, man. But I'm glad that like we're talking about it. Like, you know,
Yeah,
think about all the fucking shady high school dudes who aren't going to do shitty stuff now. Because they know that shit's going to come up.
I would hope so. I mean, I think the weird thing is like I have kind of like a weird thought on that because I never ever thought about doing anything like that, you know.
Right.
So like from my perspective, it's like I'm assuming
It's
that there's
so far
more
out
people
of your
like
realm
me.
of possibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's just not the case.
No, it's not the case.
And I do feel that I think that with knowledge, obviously knowledge, I feel like there's power, and I feel honestly that the best thing that we can do is educate people and have these conversations.
Talk about
for example, yeah. And I do feel like right now we're in a place where we can't really talk about a lot of things, unfortunately. You know.
Yeah, in some circles. It's
Yeah,
hard,
in some circles,
you know?
that's
Like,
right.
we can talk here, but there's a lot of kids who can't talk about this, like within
it's
their
sad to
family
say,
dynamic.
If certain friends of mine listened to this and heard what I just said, not that I wouldn't say it in front of their faces, just we don't have the conversations.
Right.
And if they heard, they would be like, "Oh my God, Elizabeth," you know. And it's
hard.
like, I'm just being honest, you know. Like my mom is Colombian, and
Right.
it was always you're a woman and they're men.
Yeah.
And it's different.
Go make some buñuelos.
And
Yeah.
now go cook, you know.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's a weird thing when you kind of like. I mean, I would say that my family is a little more liberal.
Yeah.
But my dad, for example, he's definitely like more traditional. So he's kind of like got like that, you know, you're the man of the house kind of thing.
Sure.
Where it's like our relationship, for example, is very equal in my
Right.
opinion. Like where we share duties. Like I cook, for example.
Right.
Like that's something. Like I feel like that's something my dad would be like. Well, maybe not now, but back then he
Right.
would be like, no, she has to cook.
Things are changing now. I
Yeah.
mean, gender roles are reversed in my house. My wife
Yeah.
does the traditional man things or whatever, like the
Yeah.
lawn, and I do the other things. So
I do dishes, by the way.
yeah. I do dishes too. I cleaned out the gutters one time. Yeah, I mean,
He
but
cooks
yeah,
and I do the dishes. We hate them least in the
dude,
whole, that's really what
relationships are
it's
so hard. Like, you know,
Yeah.
they're so complicated. Like,
How long have you been married for?
I'll be married for 10 years in December. Yeah, I got married when I was 24. Like, I got pretty lucky because I knew that I didn't want to be with anybody else, you know, and I had certain, you know, things happen in my life before I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife. So, you know, I kind of knew who I wanted to be with, and I got pretty lucky. So
how long were you guys together before you got married?
I met her when I was 19. I got married when I was 24, so 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Damn.
She had a boyfriend when I met her.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you guys? No, you didn't go to the high school, obviously. So you met her
No,
in college.
I met her in college. She was playing soccer.
That's how you knew.
No, well, I'm not a soccer player, but my friend was dating somebody on the women's team, and she was on the women's team, and he's like, "You want to play pickup?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure."
That's
I
super
saw her,
cute,
and I was
man.
like, "I love you."
That's so cute, dude. And
Yeah.
you guys play on Wednesdays. That's so cute.
Yeah,
man.
so I started playing soccer like after I met her because I was like, I got to get right, like, you know. And she ended up working at Adventure Island with me, and I was like, there she is. She introduced herself as Dirty D, and I was
Really?
like, she's like, my name's Danielle, but you can call me Dirty D, and I was like, I love you.
That's hysterical. Yes.
That's
So
awesome,
yeah, I got
man.
pretty lucky, but she tolerates me. I'm privileged. Like, I don't think I could have had my job if I wasn't married to her. You know, she's afforded me a lot of opportunities. So
Yeah, and do you mean in the sense of like being away a lot, or like I guess being so consumed?
no,
with
I
your job?
think that one thing we forget about writers and creative people is that it does take a certain amount of privilege to be able to pursue creative arts. Mm-hmm. And
What do you mean by that, though? Privilege, exactly.
like, put it this way: like, I started work when I was 16, and I've always had a job, but I was never like raising kids or anything like that. Like, so I did have time to write, you know, because I didn't have all these other things going on in my life. I didn't have to take care of my parents. I didn't have to take care of my siblings, you know. They took care of themselves. But there's other people who could probably do the thing that I do much better, whose lives didn't present that opportunity for them, you know. So
it's a very humble way of seeing it.
You know, so
you should give yourself more credit, man.
No, I mean, I work hard for sure, but I know that there's a lot of people who aren't afforded the same opportunities that I have,
and that's why you work hard, because it's like
I'm doing the best I can do with what I have, you know, and what I know. But I also recognize that, you know, my wife being financially stable probably helped. You know, I had a house to live in. My rent's been under $500 for the last 10 years.
Wow.
You know, and that gives you a certain amount of free time.
Yeah.
You know. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5 less shifts at the restaurant you have to pick up, you know? So I've been lucky, man. My parents bought me a car one time. You know, I had that car for a few years. My friends bought me my first car. I was taking the bus. Yeah.
Your friends.
And they were like, nah.
They're like, yo, we're sick of picking you up, bro. So one of my friends bought me a car. Well, they banded together and bought me a car.
Stop calling us, bro.
Dude, who are those guys?
It was like a 94 Thunderbird. It was a fucking great car.
Wow.
I had it for a while. The engine block heated up, but yeah, I mean, so that's privilege, right? Like that's luck.
Well,
so,
I'm in the same. We're both in the same boat as that. Like this house, you know, for example, if it wasn't for my mom, we wouldn't be able to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, luckily, like we're all in the name together, but it's just like she was able to, you know, put the down payment on it, and we're paying the mortgage or whatever.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
you know, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, I'm grateful. I'm super grateful for like, I you know, it's weird because it wasn't until like really, I guess, moving into the house and I guess going on tour and whatnot that I realized that I have like. I'm so lucky to be in this position now that a lot of people aren't in right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I can do whatever I want, and it's really freeing. That's a really nice feeling. You know, it's a strange thing to like realize. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It's great.
Yeah.
This cat is going bananas right now.
Cat's awesome.
Yeah, she's.
I secretly want a cat.
She smokes crack, so.
Yeah, when we're not home,
we're in the house of crack house.
But the house is only crack house for the cat.
Yeah. JK.
No drugs here.
Rawling. What would be some good tips on a good interview?
Like, what do you mean?
Like, I guess, like, if you were to teach someone how to interview, like, well, what would be your tips on to do that properly?
I would say really try to know everything about the person that you're interviewing. Like, read everything that's available.
Yeah.
As much time as you have.
But even besides that, though, because you did mention that already, but more of like, for example, when you're actually talking to them, like like making them comfortable, you know, like those types of things. Like, what would you suggest? Because there's obviously like there's an art to it. You get what I'm saying?
Like right now we're lucky because we don't have a time constraint, right? Like we can talk. But I've really, I've learned to just listen. So I will ask a question and just shut the fuck up until there's an awkward silence. Mm-hmm. And then I will decide whether I should ask a follow-up question that I didn't have written down based on what the person said, you know, if there's something I need to follow up on there, or if I need to ask a question that I had written down. But a lot of times you want to make sure that you're not trying to steer the person into the story that you thought you were going to write before you interviewed them, right? Like you have to be open to wherever their conversation is going to take you. Like tomorrow I get to see Chris Thiele, who's in Punch Brothers. He's a mandolin player. He also hosts Live From Here, which is formerly a Prairie Home Companion. It's the second time I've interviewed him. And it was great because the first time I interviewed him, I got to get a lot of shit out of the way. Like I asked him shit that I kind of wanted to ask him, and I just got to listen to him this time. And I'm unlucky. I mean, this guy's a MacArthur genius, right? Like the MacArthur Foundation gave him, I don't know how much, it was like close to $500,000 to do whatever he fucking wants with because they believe in the thing that he does. Rhiannon Giddens is a MacArthur genius too. But yeah, just listen. But you really do have to know because you have to make assumptions. It sucks. Like you have to assume things.
Like what?
Like of all the research, that's the downside of research because then you think you know something about somebody. But what do you really fucking know about somebody? Right. No matter how much you read about them.
So even though so for example, although you read about them, do you approach So let's say you ask them about like something that you read about. Would you approach it as a question rather than a statement? Like, oh, this is something that I've read about you. Like, elaborate on that. Like, how?
Oh yeah. So I've been like, hey, in a past interview, you said this. What exactly did you mean about this? Or I love when I can actually talk about the music. So I'll be like, hey, how did this kind of thing play into this kind of thing about this song? But then again, music is really, when you write the song, God, you might not feel like that tomorrow. Right? So you have to figure out what the record's about, whether it's like this big personal statement or a collection of songs that somebody wrote. And you could find that out by reading a bunch of other interviews.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to figure out what conversation you think you want to have. But you really do have to listen to the person when they get on the phone.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what that person's going to be like when they get there. That's why podcasts are great. You can kind of tell whether they're...
Like into it?
Yeah, like you can tell what kind of interview they might be.
Yeah.
You know? But I think it's important to ask questions you're not afraid to ask. I think it's okay to make people uncomfortable.
How like...
I don't know. Ask them, like... Because a lot of times you'd be like, should I ask that question? And then you're like... We don't want to be disrespectful, right?
Of course, yeah.
But I think you should ask hard questions if you have them. And I try to be very open and say, hey, I always tell people if there's anything you need to talk about off the record, feel free to say that to provide context or whatever, background, you know? And then I say, hey, can we go back on the record about this? So just be very clear and respectful about the boundaries and just set the rules. Like, you know, you're both there. Like, it's hard for artists because artists are trying to get press and they're trying to be good artists and talk to journalists, which is so unfair. Like, it's art.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to talk about your art. Like, you should just put your art out and receive it. But that's not the world we live in. So
do you think that talking off the record helps you, like, with what you write? I mean,
yeah,
like,
100%.
I guess, right? Because it kind of puts in context, like, the words you're going to use and things like that, I imagine.
It just you have to just say, hey, can we just talk, you know, about anything, you know, and then we could I could go my whole life and talk off the record with somebody.
Right.
And if one day somebody wants to have a conversation on the record, I'm cool. You know, I don't need it to be on the record. I don't need anything. I just want to know.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to understand how other artists are and things like that. Like, you know, so I do believe that off the record conversations can be very helpful.
Right.
But you have to be very clear about when you're having them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the main reason why I'm asking is because I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do that as well. Like, I'm trying to interview people.
Do an interview for us. Who do you want to interview?
Well, I mean, the people that I have on, obviously, like, I'm trying to learn this as we go, and it's like, you know, you're obviously you're the perfect person. You have experience.
I think you just have to do it. Like, you have to do it. You have to make a lot of mistakes. You have to listen. Like, you listen to the podcast and you're probably like, I hate myself. I hate myself. But you just have to do it.
I've already gotten some notes, like, basically that I've talked too much over the person. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to, like...
We've had a pretty good conversation, I feel like.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
so I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think sometimes if you take, like, maybe you should do, like, a phone interview for us, because then you do have, like, time limitations. Mm-hmm. And when you have time limitations, it's really good, like, because you're like, all right, what am I going to ask? So, and it's fucking nerve-wracking. It's great to be nervous. Like, being nervous is the best thing in the world. Yes.
Why, though? I mean, I guess if you have questions, if you have everything written down already, but I would imagine, like, being nervous...
Being nervous doesn't mean you're not prepared.
Yeah.
You know?
You can be prepared and be nervous.
Yeah.
It's different, though, for a podcast, because if you don't have... Like, if you... I guess the approach that sometimes I've taken is I just kind of want it to be, like, an open conversation, like, no preparedness.
Yeah.
This is different now because I have questions in front of me.
Right.
But, like, there's, like, being nervous, you kind of go into, like, a blank state of mind where you can't even think of anything to, like, ask the person. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so that happens to me, for example. Like, if I'm nervous, which I was, by the way, when I first met you.
Right. You mean today?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous.
I can tell.
I was too.
Yeah. No, I mean... and I'll be honest.
I think that more has to do with maybe being like an antisocial person, maybe.
Yes, it is for sure. Yeah.
My wife's an introvert like that.
Okay. Yeah. So she'd probably understand it. Yeah. I mean, it's always weird for me to meet a new person because I think what it is that I'm trying to anticipate like how the situation's gonna go, like how the interaction's gonna go. So I think that just instinctually just starts giving me anxiety, and it's like instead of just not necessarily caring about it, and not caring, but just more of like just kind of like going with the flow of it. Mm-hmm. I find myself overthinking it and just like, oh, what if what if this person isn't cool or whatever, and it's just like,
What if I'm not cool? Like,
yeah, but no,
you deal with it, you know.
no, but you are cool.
No, but I'm saying, like, if it's not working out, then you just move on. It's like everything else in life. Like,
Yeah, I hope that day doesn't come, but I guess that's something I was thinking about. So have you encountered like a shitty interview where you just were like, oh, this is
oh, definitely.
really?
Yeah, I can't even remember, but I've definitely had interviews where it was like, yep.
Oh.
You know?
Well, okay, so what do you do in that situation to kind of like try and like, is there anything you can do?
I think the natural inclination is to try to be an asshole back.
Really?
But I think I know enough to just continue to be kind, have a lot of questions to ask, and don't be afraid to just say the interview is done, you know?
So so do you happen to know what the shortest interview is that you've had?
I mean, I could look back. I would have to look back. So I have a really bad problem with retention and memory. I tend to write things and then forget them.
Okay.
I think maybe that's why I wrote them in the first place.
Exactly.
You know, it was because I would put the memory down and be like, I need to exercise this emotion out of me, and then figure it out again when it comes back. So I don't know if it's because of the volume that I'm writing at. I don't know. I don't know if it's the Internet of Things.
I would imagine that the volume of work that you're doing would
which could be
probably cause
really
that.
bad for the quality. I don't know, but we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
So,
think you would have known already.
there have been some fucking shitty interviews. I mean, I've had some shit ones for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You just remember.
Charlie Daniels was a bad one.
Who's that?
Devil Went Down to Georgia. You ever heard that song?
Yeah.
It was bad.
Why
I
was
caught him on like a random Saturday. He was a good interview, but he was so mad at me.
Why?
Not mad at me. I think he was kind of like on his like anti-Hillary thing at the time.
Oh, so you
It
guys
was kind of
of
short. It wasn't kind of a great interview, but that wasn't the worst one by any means. There were some pretty bad ones.
Is it because
So-
you guys actually got into like a political argument? Is that
I don't get in political arguments with people I interview.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
If they're gonna go there,
Whatever. Dude.
I'm not gonna argue like that.
Yeah.
I am not gonna spend my 15 minutes trying to convince him otherwise.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to have like facts and shit. So, but there have been bad ones. I mean, I can't remember them. I'm also really good at forgetting shit that I don't like.
That you don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? You don't want to hold on to that, man.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of.
If I look back, I can tell you for sure. I have all my interviews. Like I have all the audio in a Dropbox. So
I wonder, so it's funny. Like I wonder how it got there to like Hillary, like anti-Hillary talk.
I mean, I think I'll always ask that question. I mean, if somebody has a hard political stance, I will go there. Mm-hmm. You know, not for the sake of being political, but for saying, just to get them on the record. Like, you know, part of my job is to speak truth to people who have power. So that's important.
Yeah, if they're huge on it, obviously it's a part of them. So,
Right.
You know, you want to talk about it.
So I guess like so. Is in his case, for example, would it be that he was like actively being political and
It was definitely actively political, but I think
Okay.
that's how he is. But I think it was like around a very good charitable event that he was doing. So
Okay. That's interesting to me.
yeah, I'll talk to anybody, dude. I don't care.
That's so funny. So I have we're all through. Oh no, yeah. I would. You would consider yourself a Floridian, right? You've been here for a
100%.
long. Yeah,
I went through puberty here, not
Yeah.
to make it that
Hey,
way.
for
but-
sure.
Yeah,
But that's it.
That's how like I mark where you grew up. Where'd you grow up? Well, where'd you go through puberty?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all Floridians here, and I guess one of the questions I have, like, obvious. I mean, the question is, do you like Florida, and why? If so, why?
Yeah, I love Florida. I came from California, where one of my biggest memories was a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, and I'll deal with a hurricane. Well,
Anytime.
I'll knock on wood, but
Literally.
yeah, you know, you can predict a hurricane, so you can leave.
Yeah.
You know,
You can evacuate. Yeah.
right? So for that reason, definitely, we're obviously very close to the beach. It's very warm here. It's humid as fuck. There's some weird ass people here.
They're really.
We get neglected a lot, touring bands and things like that. But I think it's getting better.
Why do you think that is?
I think that's logistics. I mean, what's the furthest you guys have gone away on tour?
North Carolina so far.
And how many dates did you play? How many shows were you able to play between here and North Carolina?
2. No, well, so it was
one.
South Carolina, North Carolina, and then we went to Atlanta. So
one, technically speaking.
So is that financially feasible.
No.
Right. So imagine for like a big band that has crew, hotels, that kind of shit. Like, what if they got to charge at the door to make it worth it? And then what if they play a show on a fucking Tuesday here and nobody shows up?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the great thing about all the data now, Spotify, everything. You can kind of see where, and you can take data on everything, ticket sales, everything. You can put all that in a spreadsheet. You can almost dictate based on data where you should go.
Yeah, you can get a fan base before you even show up to the place.
Yeah, and it's up to you to try to meet them somewhere.
So
like, figure out where that is.
Why do you think that Floridians are less prone to go out to see shows?
I don't know. Well, for one, I don't know that we've been like Tampa. Like, there's really not a lot of people that live here yet. Like, we have to like ingrain people. There's like 200 people that go to shows, but we have to get the whole culture to be like, oh, we're a music city. This is what we do, right? Like, even in Austin, all the fucking bros go to shows and stuff. Like, But how do we get the people that are at McDinton's and Park and Rec and like to say, yo, I'm into this local band. Like, I fucking love this band. We got to go see them. If they're on a bill with a national band, I got to go see them.
Yeah.
You have to convince people that music is worth it, But then again, you have fucking TV. Like, I've skipped a Monday show before because I wanted to watch The fucking Bachelor, right? That's fucking crazy. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and money. I mean, I don't know where I fall on this. Some people say, well, it's the greatest time to be alive. But I'm like, man, I think some people are still really poor.
Yeah, but I think from that, it's there from that perspective, it's always going back to like literally like the 1800s, for example. Like maybe if you were to speak relatively from, I don't know, 70 or the 1980s or something like that, then maybe you could compare those two. But I mean, there's no way that you could argue that like the 1800s, for example, that we're not better off now than
we're definitely better off than then. But
Yeah.
why do people don't go to shows? I think there's a lot of options for them. I mean, think about it. You can turn on Spotify and say, play an album I'm into after that. You could go all day, and an algorithm can feed you the thing that will just keep you happy enough to stay home.
Yeah. Wait enough, it's going to be on YouTube.
I think we just have to open people up to that experience that we've all had, like in the live setting. We were like, right now, this song is hitting me in a way that it's never hit me, whether you're familiar with it or not. You just have to get people to believe that like that's the only thing that matters. But for us, that's our existence.
Yeah.
And we're probably a little bit outside of the realm, but if we can give people more of a taste of that, and you have to give them a sense of ownership and pride and say, these are your venues, these are your bands, these are your clubs. And if you're not out there supporting them in whatever way you can be,
they leave.
Yeah. And what kind of city do you want to live in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and I'm just to be honest, like, this is a question that I've had for a long time, and now that I think with the internet, my answer's changing. But originally it was like the idea was we were moving here, and then we were just we were leaving. We were gonna leave to a better scene. You know what I'm saying? That's like now it's almost, now that we're becoming more part of it, it's almost like I would love to help it grow if possible. And I mean, it's like you come to a point where it's like, do you really even need to move anywhere else because you can just travel there? You know what I'm saying? Like, at least in the United States, feasibly.
I think Tampa has that effect on people. I've met people who've thought they would leave, just like you said, have lived here for years.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's pretty easy to live here, actually.
It is very easy. It's a better version.
It's almost dangerously easy.
It's a better version of Miami, in my opinion.
It's pretty easy to live here. We're pretty lucky.
Yeah, we have St. Pete, we have Tampa, we have Clearwater.
It's relatively affordable still.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's cool.
I would say it really depends on where you come from, I imagine, because we came from Miami, and it's like, holy hell.
You don't want to fucking deal with that.
No,
driving around in that shit.
Absolutely not.
Fuck.
It literally takes 3 hours to go like 10 miles. Because
And the
of
reason
just
people love Miami, that's why they stay.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
some people, those people, I'm sorry, I'm like, those people, I'm like, you're so weird.
I don't
dude.
understand it, to be honest. Like literally anyone past 35 years old, I'm just like, why are you there? Like, get the fuck out of there.
I don't know. I mean, think about how much you love it here. Like, they love it, that place, with the same fervor as you love this place.
Yeah.
So,
I graduated
some
with this
people,
this chick from high school, and kids and everything. She just lives there, and I had the conversation with her before, and it was just like, she's like, I don't know anything else. Like, this is it. I love it. And I'm like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, well, hell, if you're happy.
Yeah,
Why
no,
not?
that's the main thing. I mean, happiness.
Yeah.
That's all
happy.
that matters for
Yeah.
sure. That's the main thing. I think like also it's like the culture down there is so like vibrant. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like
Dude.
all Hispanics. So it's just like if
It's
you're
amazing.
if you are Hispanic,
I love going down there,
yeah,
man.
yeah. It's like you're just like you feel like you're at home. You know,
What are
if you're-
those chorizo burgers they have? El Maja, the something. God, Miami's cool,
chorizo
dude.
burgers. What chorizo?
There's some
burgers?
crazy like chorizo beef combo with some like fries on it or something.
Oh,
It's like the El Maji, the something.
I know what you're talking about, but that yeah.
I like going to Miami, like, but it's like I could never live there.
No, I couldn't
Exactly.
either.
It's a good visiting place,
Yeah.
for sure. You go in
Yeah.
there, get lost, stuff your face.
Yeah,
Yeah, we I do like for example now it's cool. The funny thing is, whenever I go back down there and like I meet a band from down there, I'm just like you guys are my people, you know, just because there's just so many like subtle things that Miami people have.
do your parents still live down there?
Yes, they
Okay.
do. Yeah, my dad and mom still live down there. I'm trying to get them to move, but yeah.
No, it's good to have a place to go.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's just funny because I mean, moving up here was a culture shock for me at least. I don't know about for her, but it was a culture shock for us
There's
or
some
for me.
Colombians up in here, I think.
Well, it's more of like going from like the majority to the minority.
Oh
It's-
yeah,
It's not something you grow
That's-
you're Hispanic,
Go,
you're in Miami.
go to the rural frickin'. That's what people forget about Tampa is it's really spread out.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we're lucky to kind of live close to the city center here.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different when you get out to the suburbs and things like that.
It's very different.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm scared right now. Lock the car doors. Elizabeth, we're going 80. Just lock the car doors. I don't know.
It is
lock
weird. I
them.
mean, that is a strange thing to be like a minority, you know?
Yeah.
Especially, yeah, it's just like, you walk into a shop and people speak Spanish to you. I speak Spanish. It's cool.
Right.
We can speak Spanish. I speak
Oh,
English
yeah.
too, but whatever. We'll speak Spanish right now. And you don't think about it. I mean, born and
Right.
raised there. And then we move over here and you walk in and people actually speak English. You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's totally different. Miami's a totally different.
it's
thing,
its own
man.
Yeah, it is. It's like a different country.
To me, yeah, it's not even an American city in that sense. Like, yeah, it's a great American city, but it's so. You know, how, like there's pockets of New York
that are, yeah.
that are like very ethnic,
yeah.
but the whole city
Yeah,
of
the whole
Miami
city's
is like that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's very special, you know.
Yeah, no, it is weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the main reason why I even say that is because like when it's so normal to you and you finally leave it, you're just like, oh shit, there's people that will greet you in English. You know, well, not that doesn't happen there, but the majority of people speak Spanish.
Yeah.
and like you go into like
It's just not out of the ordinary.
yeah, like you, it's almost like you're in Puerto Rico or something like that, where
Yeah.
everyone's just speaking Spanish to each other. It's
I think that's
fucking-
what I love about it, like the Peruvian Chinese people too. Is that what it is? Peru and Chinese restaurants over there. I think they have. I love that.
It
that
could-
sounds really good though.
Yeah. It could be from Honduras.
It's one of
I
the
don't know.
South American countries where like there was a large like Chinese population, and somehow they ended up in Miami. A lot of them,
My grandfather's half Chinese.
right? Like, so
Cuban.
that's where like a lot of ways, we just don't have that mix yet, right? Like, I love like the mix of cultures like that. So I think that's a really good thing.
I mean, technically, in my opinion, I think Tampa has more diversity because it has Hispanics, it has white people, it has black
Yeah.
people, it has Asians, it's like everything. You know what I'm saying? And I honestly like that better.
Cool.
You know?
I mean, dude, I'm into it. I don't. I've been in it for so long that I don't.
Yeah, you don't
know?
even. Yeah, for sure. I get that.
Yeah.
That's funny though. But yeah,
Yeah.
you were born in a place that was, you know. I mean, I don't know, maybe not.
I mean, I'm from LA, so I remember moving here and people talking disparagingly about Mexicans in my class.
Oh really?
And in fourth grade, and I remember thinking, yo, fucking Mexicans are cool as hell. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean?
Really?
Because that's all you were around in
Right. Like,
Southern-
in LA, like,
Yeah.
that's, that's
Damn,
life.
So you witnessed racism in high school.
Not even high school. It was fourth grade. I remember somebody saying something shitty about Mexican people in fourth grade. And I don't even think I recognized that as racism, but I was like, who doesn't want to be Mexican?
That's
I
so
wouldn't
weird,
mind
man.
it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it just never occurred to me, right? So maybe it was racism. I didn't know it as such.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's crazy because, like, you see, like, that's another thing, too, is, like, until I came up here, I never really, like, experienced, like, you know, like, true, like, Confederate flag, like, bearing white people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that doesn't exist down
Could
there.
you imagine being an African-American black person? Like, even for somebody with black skin saying that shit?
No.
Shit is crazy.
Yeah.
Nope. I can't.
But then somebody called me Yao Ming on a basketball court, and then that was just like the full immersion. Cool. Yeah.
Well, I was called white boy all the time.
Right, so. And you're like, I was Latin American.
Yeah. I was like,
the fuck, dude?
Excuse me, sir.
Well, that's where we get so caught up in like surface level things, and so
yeah.
That's my last name is Caballero. Like what?
It's like I don't know about that one. Okay, so what is the easiest and the hardest part about writing an article or an interview? What would you say?
Easiest or hardest part about writing something?
I'd say if you could do both, that'd be cool.
Well, yeah,
like
I could
the
do
easiest
both.
And the hardest part.
I think the hardest part is the after. When you kind of put it out already and you read it, sometimes you catch fucking straight up spelling errors. That sucks. But it's like second guessing whether or not you told the right story, right? That's the hardest part. Or if you really feel like you got the story wrong, misrepresented somebody, totally read it wrong. That sucks.
But you would only know that if the artist like contacted you afterwards,
or if like you didn't do enough research on the front end. And you didn't realize that that's how this person felt about that thing, or you just misread the whole situation, Or if you write a story and it actually hurts the situation more than it helped it. Like you're not supposed to want to influence things a certain way, but I think one of the main things is like do no harm, right?
Yeah.
But if you hurt something, I think that sucks. That's hard. What's easy about it? I mean, I don't know. I guess there's abundance of things to write about. So selecting things is hard, but there's always something for me to write about, So that's easy. I don't know if that answers your question, though.
Yeah, that kind of does. Yeah,
okay.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's generally... I guess, like, from that standpoint of... would you say that an interview or even just writing an article, would you just say, like, that's an amplification... Not even necessarily on your perspective, right? Because you would try to be unbiased when you write these type of things, right? So would you just say like it's an amplification of just what's not printed? Would you say?
I think in a way, no matter what you write about somebody, an article is always a reflection of the writer, because it's being told through the writer's lens or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like my viewpoint or opinion on things. Mm-hmm. is always in there because I wrote it. So, and because I have limitations as a human and limitations in how compassionate and empathetic I can be, I am always going to miss something, and it's always going to be through the lens of who I am.
Yeah. And
the things that I notice in that given time frame when I'm writing the thing, whether it's through research or personal experience, so, it is always about, and at the end of the day, it's always about the writer. Like, it's a very selfish endeavor. Somebody is surrendering their own story to somebody else to write. And in a lot of ways, it's very unfair.
That's so interesting that you see it that way, though, because the way I see it is that you're helping that person by spreading the word of whatever they have to say.
Yeah, perhaps, but it's like they're also surrendering. Surrendering a lot of intimate details about their life. Because you could say something on record, and you could feel a totally different way 2 years later, But if the wrong story gets written in the wrong thing, you're stuck with, especially nowadays, in these stupid fucking headlines, So.
In that sense, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's not even the way I'm thinking about it. I'm literally thinking from like the actual the concept of it. You get what I'm saying? I'm not even thinking
putting it out for the artist.
Yeah, that's the way I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I get that you're.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of like helping people get press and telling. I love it. I just, I know that I can never tell the whole story in one story. You can't. Mm-hmm. It's 900 words on a page. It's impossible.
Man, this has gone by really, really fast.
Yeah. What time is that? I didn't even look.
Sorry, I don't mean to hold you up.
Oh, you're not holding me up, man.
We are at an hour and almost 40 minutes.
Awesome. So I didn't know we were going to get to Joe Rogan levels today. That's the only reason I don't listen to that podcast, because I'm like, that fucker's too long. So
it's actually, that's another thing I've got.
But a lot of people love it because it's that long.
That personally, that's why I love it, and
just did 2 parts. Fuck it.
That's true. You could do that. Yeah. So I guess for like the last question that I have, in your opinion, what do you think the future holds for art?
For art in general? Mm-hmm. So I used to think that art was this thing that we got to do after we paid bills. Like, I always used to think that writing about art was kind of like a privilege in itself, because there's other people that have to write about war and poverty and city politics and corruption and very real things, tangible. But I think that art, I don't know why it took me so long to realize it, is like the thing that really gets anybody through if you're lucky. A great piece of art can help you survive.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of people who haven't killed themselves because they had art. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's what life is all about. So I don't know that people will ever stop making art. I'm concerned that artists won't make money. You know, at the paper, we can't pay photographers for the things that they do at the rates that they should be paid for. I can't pay writers at the rates that they deserve to be paid for. You know, that's because journalism's learning things and trying to figure out how shit works.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned in that sense, and that a lot of people won't pursue the creative arts because there's not a way to make a living in them anymore. So I hope that the quality of art in that sense doesn't go down because people can't practice it and make a living anymore. I think people will always make it. I think there'll always be a need, and I hope that there are always programs that will find kids who have an artistic inclination and put them in a place where they can explore that, you know. So I hope there's always programs like that. I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, that's a very insightful answer. Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I mean, the only thing I would add to that is that I feel like as humans, as thinking people, that we intrinsically, we're creative, even if it's not necessarily through music or through or art, you know, or visually. I mean, for example, you're doing it in your own medium of writing. So you could even argue that a mechanic, for example, there's a form of artistry. It's
problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think that, like, regardless, like, even if, you know, because although we can't make money like how they did back in the day, I do feel like I like this, like I said, like in terms of like the being lucky and stuff, I do feel like now it's more accessible for us, for example, where I feel like the music is not necessarily something like radio friendly, but we can still, you know, with hard work and with a lot of dedication, we can eventually make a living off of it.
Dude, I agree with that 100%. Right now, you don't have to be anything. The radio doesn't fucking exist anymore. Yep. Like, nobody is beholden to that. Like, maybe we're beholden to like playlist culture now, but you can be any band you want to be now and find a fan base. Yeah. You know? So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. But anyways, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, if I mean all the plugs and stuff like that, we'll definitely drop in the line. If there's anything that you want to plug,
I'm not worried about it. I would just say thank you for reading the newspaper. I know it's tough to read a newspaper every week, but, and I may be from a different generation, but keep picking it up and just keep supporting like the people that are doing the things that you think you're into. And if you're on the fence about doing something, go do it. Yeah. Like, you know, and go encourage your friends to do it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the meeting.
To hear the end